Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Now, here's your host, Aslan Hajavandi.
Welcome on into the Wednesday edition of Wake Up War Chant right here on ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee. You already know my name. He is Corey Clark, senior writer for WarChant.com and arguably the voice of this generation. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations over in College Town, Madison Social, Township, and Central. Check them out. You will enjoy them.
You think I'm the voice of this generation? Like the current one, like the people in their 20s? By the way, how do we define generations? Like, when people say this generation, what age range do you think they're talking about? Like there was the X generation, the Y generation, or Generation X, the Y generation, the millennials, apparently that spans a bunch of generations.
Yeah, none of it makes sense to me because...
Like, what's your generation? Are you Gen X?
I think I'm technically a millennial. I don't feel home with them, but then I'm not a Gen X guy because Gen X is... I think you're Gen X, aren't you, Gen X?
A little before you. Yeah, I was a Gen X guy, so I think it's a little before you. All right, okay, well, I'm good. We need to get this squared away. Maybe people can email us or tweet us and tell us what their definitions of a generation are.
Yeah, put that into the Renegade Express, folks. Go over to the Tribal Council on WarChant.com. Submit your questions. We'll answer them on Friday's program. All right, Corey, so here we are. It's a Wednesday. It's late February. It's still February, right? It's not March yet. How many days are in the month of February? 28, right? So this is the last day of the month? Or is there 29? I never can keep up with February.
Man, I have a hard time. I don't know. I know it's the shortest month, but it's weird that we have a month that has different days depending on the year. We need to get that squared away somehow. I know it has to do something with the rotation of the Earth, but come on, let's figure it out, guys.
I think so. That sounds right. Hey, man, shout out for that pretty sweet column yesterday on the whole Jalen Ramsey versus Tim Brewster versus Texas A&M thing. That was quite riveting. You know, and we were on the same page because when I went and uploaded the podcast, I was actually going to headline it with Hail King Ramsey. But I'm like, no, I'm going to go with, Ramsey don't mess around or Ramsey don't play just because, I don't know, he just came out swinging. So then you took the Hail Ramsey without me even having to tell you. That's how in tune you are with my mind thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Mind thoughts, that's just ideas. Mind thoughts, not even anything, everybody. I'm just making words up now.
Mind thoughts. I've never heard that phrase before.
So, dude.
But yeah, great minds think alike. We know that.
That works. That's one of those things people say. So, yeah, man, that was worthy of you to pen a column, man. And just the general gist of it was basically, he's right. Chill out, Tim Brewster.
Yeah, and I was thinking, he's 100% right. I mean, it's bizarre to do that. It's just bizarre to use guys that didn't play at your school, that the head coach really had no. I mean, he got them to the school, which is a big part of the process. But Jimbo Fisher didn't teach those guys how to be DBs, so it's just bizarre to then publicize them when you're trying to recruit kids to Texas A&M. I don't know. Just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It's not a big deal, and I'm sure Jalen Ramsey doesn't think it's a huge deal. But it was something that he felt angry enough and felt it was important enough to say something. And I think 100% of Florida State fans agreed with him. Hey man, you got your own history, whatever it is. Go find that and tweet about that. Don't tweet about the 2013 National Championship DBs.
In case you folks don't know what we're talking about, Tim Brewster made a tweet that was a photo of Jimbo Fisher flanked by several Florida State players. I think there was 8 players. 7 of them went to Florida State. One was a kid from Notre Dame, I think, that Mike Elko had coached, or maybe from a previous stint. Tim Brewster used that sort of propaganda, all these players showing, hey, listen, this is all the money they've made in the NFL. This is how many starts they've made in the NFL. You can do the same thing if you come to Texas A&M. And the whole thing here was that Jalen responded back. I think they call it clap back. I think this generation, this millennial generation, I think they call it clapping back. So Jalen comes back and says, hey, listen, this guy did not at one point, anytime, ever teach me any technique about being defensive back. Then he comes back and tells Brewster, listen, I love you, I respect you, but don't use me to help out a new school for a coach who never taught me anything about being a defensive back. And Seminole Nation just had a collective roar. It was a fantastic way to sort of cap off the month.
Oh, for sure. It was a really neat, and I thought he handled it perfectly. And it was a fun column to write and throw in the tweets and all that. I wanted to throw in a tweet because I found a picture of the Texas A&M 1939 national championship team.
I saw that. Well done.
And if I was good enough on Photoshop, I could have made a Tim Brewster like tweet with those guys. the lily white 9 white guys that were wearing those crazy helmets with no face masks. That's the image that he needs to be tweeting about, because those were the last guys to win a national championship for Texas A&M. Ronald Darby would have never gone to College Station. Jalen Ramsey had no interest in going to, the dusty prairie lands of Texas. So don't use them to try to get kids to your school. Use your own history, whatever you think it is. Use that and leave the Florida State kids to Florida State. And I think if it would have been a quarterback, Jimbo Fisher's quarterback, don't you think that would have made more sense?
Yes.
Because he's a quarterback coach.
Yeah, take credit for what you've created, for what you've one-on-one recruited, what you've cultivated, and build off that reputation. Jimbo Fisher's not a defensive guy. I mean, that's not his reputation. It's not his MO. You can do all the quarterback stuff you want to do, but DBs, like, it just reeks of either desperation or just being completely oblivious.
Well, and kind of untrue. It's a misnomer in the sense that, they played for Jimbo Fisher, but they weren't Jimbo Fisher's defensive backs. They were Charles Kelly's defensive backs and Jeremy Pruitt's or Mark Stoops. They weren't his, only in the sense that he was the head coach. I don't know. That just kind of bothered me a little bit, but because he didn't coach them, he wasn't over there. Like Jalen said, he didn't teach him one thing about being a defensive back. So don't then claim that he had something to do with those $8 or $9 million. Jalen Ramsey was going to be a millionaire no matter where he went. Yeah, I'm sure he got better at Florida State. He had good competition. He saw how to work when he joined that 2013 team, and he won a lot of games at Florida State. But let's not act like Jimbo Fisher made him as a defensive back.
And Texas A&M looks to be having a serious problem with originality. That photo you unearthed, at first, I'm like, why did Corey just post a photo of the Michigan Wolverines? Like, their helmet almost had the front look of, like, Michigan, that kind of winged look, but ultimately, it was just whatever they do. And I don't know, this is my thing. Like, I love Tallahassee. I'm glad to be back, really, and I'm not patronizing anybody. I've never been to College Station, but, like, I don't know. Like, are we throwing stones in a glass house if we're, like, ragging on College Station? I've never been to College Station, but I don't know. Is it a dusty prairie, like you've said? Have you been, or are we just like jilted lovers?
Well, no.
Like, screw everybody.
So my girlfriend went to Texas A&M. She got her master's there. Okay. So she told me things about it, that it's maybe not the most progressive place in the world, and there isn't a ton to do. And they do have a building on campus where they, I don't know. Can we say cow semen?
Yeah, that's technically what it is. Cow seed,
right? I mean, they have a building on campus where they're extracting that, or bull. I guess it would be bull.
Right? Yeah.
They're extracting that. That's what people do. That's part of the major is animal husbandry and all that. So I mean, that happens on that campus. So again, it's not for me. There's a lot of people that love that work and are really good at it and really passionate about it, and I'm very happy for them. We need those people in this country.
This nation was founded on farmers.
We can make fun of that.
Farmers are the backbone of this nation. We are proud of farmers. We enjoy them. I'm in Florida. This is an agriculture state. We appreciate farmers, but that is a little bit unique. It's a little bit of a unique sort of ripple they have there. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I think. I don't know. There's just.
I guess I'd point at this: like, if you're interested in playing at Florida State and living in Tallahassee, do you really think like College Station would be a close second? Like, they're just so different. I think one is much better than the other one, but that's for people have different tastes. That's fine, but it's not like Florida State and Texas A&M have a lot of recruiting battles because they're just such different lifestyles.
But they're both big time universities that
Well, one of them is big time.
Well, I mean, listen, they got a 112,000 seat stadium or whatever. They don't have the accomplishments Florida State does, but it's there are two campuses that live and die with their football team. And you're gonna have to help me out with this, Corey, and probably the people at home too. And I know people are probably yelling right now, and like they think I'm defending Texas A&M. I think I need to be reintroduced. I need to be like reprogrammed to get my equilibrium back, because everybody in Alabama thought I was Mr. ACC, which was a joke, because I'm like, I like Florida State. I don't care about the ACC. I just like Florida State. But I have been indoctrinated into SEC superiority. I don't buy into it, but I don't know, for some reason I feel like, with what Jimbo said on his way out, that I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of modicum of truth in it. Like maybe Florida State's facilities aren't good enough. Maybe Texas A&M playing in such a huge stadium is a better sort of draw, but obviously the proof's in the pudding. They haven't accomplish nearly as much as Florida State has. So I think maybe that's part of the thing. I need to be sort of shook into reality in that, listen, College Station sucks, dude. Florida State's much, much better. I don't know if you want to maybe do something like that over the phone right now.
Well, it is, look, different strokes, different folks and all that. Number one, Texas A&M has only been in the SEC for like half a decade.
Right.
So, the first 100 years of their existence, they did jack squat.
Okay, that is the right sort of mindset. I now feel equalized. I feel at neutral. I think I'm back now. I have got my senses about me.
You got your equilibrium back. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. We need to get you back. You realize that this is Wake Up War Chant, not Wake Up Aggie Who or whatever they say out there, Aggie Land. It's Wake Up War Chant, buddy.
Good morning, Gig'em. Good morning, Gig'em.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the Good Morning Gig'em.
Yeah, we don't do that around here. It's all about the War Chant. We'll be right back after this. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. It's Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, knows now is a time of true excitement for Nole fans everywhere. That's why WarChant.com is especially proud to announce its newest team member, senior writer Corey Clark. Combine Corey's expertise with owner Gene Williams and managing editor Ira Schafel, and WarChant.com boasts nearly 50 years of experience covering the team you love. It's Taggart time in Tallahassee, and that means now is the perfect time to sign up for your free 30-day trial. From National Signing Day to March Madness, WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. This is Wake Up War Chant. It's ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee. The show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 locations over in College Town, Central, Madison Social, and Township. Free parking on the first 2 levels of the College Town parking garage Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Use that to go and visit these places. But, hey, any time of day, you can obviously get out there for a nice drink, a nice beverage, a nice meal, whatever is on your palate that you would like to get satiated. Let's talk the round ball. Baloncesto, that's basketball in the Espanol, Corey. That's my Florida public school education coming through. Craziness happening last night. I wasn't able to watch it, but apparently Miami and North Carolina had a pretty nice finish.
Yeah, Miami was leading the whole game. North Carolina hit a really impressive 3 by Joel Berry. I think it was Berry, to tie the game with 4 seconds left. And then Newton, I think, came down from Miami and hit like a 30-footer at the buzzer to beat North Carolina in Chapel Hill, which is obviously a huge win for Miami. Not a huge loss for North Carolina, but a great win for Miami. And that's as Leonard likes to say, that's life in the ACC.
Yeah, I was able to speak to Leonard yesterday during his availability. Everybody keeps asking him what's happening, like what's wrong. He's like, man, don't you watch basketball? This is happening everywhere. He's almost talking about the parity of the sport in terms of like one possession games. Games seem to be coming close. He's like, that's been commonplace in football, but it's happening by and large much more in basketball, especially in the ACC. And then sure enough, on Super Tuesday, you have a buzzer beater going down between Miami and North Carolina.
Well, and then you saw it with Virginia Tech beating Duke at the buzzer. Right. I mean, look, man, there's one awful team in the ACC. Georgia Tech's not much better, but there's Pitt, there's Georgia Tech. Everybody up, maybe Wake Forest, but we saw Wake Forest could beat Florida State. But other than those dregs, everybody else in the ACC can beat everybody else. I mean, it's a hard league. And you don't play well, you lose. And even sometimes if you play well and one of those kids gets on a crazy run, you're going to lose. The kid's going to make 8 threes and they're going to figure out a way to win a game for a team. They have a lot of really good players in this league. And I think when it comes to Florida State fandom and basketball, and look, I get people that are frustrated with Leonard Hamilton. Again, it's the 16th year. We think he's going to make the NCAA tournament this year, but even if he does, it's as an 8 or 9 seed, and it's only the 6th time in 16 years. An okay run. But I think there's a football mentality. Every game is a referendum, and it's just not like that in basketball, man. Even the great basketball teams are going to lose 4 or 5 times. That's just how it works in this day and age. And so, Florida State is a 20-10 type of team. That's pretty good, especially in this league. But you wonder, okay, you lost a game, you lost another game, or you didn't play well. What in the world's going on? Well, maybe they're just in a bit of a funk. And maybe against Clemson tonight, they hit 14 threes and win by 12 points. I mean, That does happen in basketball. They're due for a good shooting game. Maybe this will be it. But I get what he's saying in the sense that it's the parity in the sport. And there's not a whole lot of difference between the 20th best team in the country and the 55th best team in the country.
There's just two things that he says that people kind of pounce on. And what he was pointing out about the NC State loss was he said, listen, we lost to a really, really good team that shot the ball exceptionally well. And he was talking about their level of maturity because of the seniority they have on that team. They have a couple, I guess, fifth-year guys, maybe a grad transfer or two, just saying that basically the inconsistency, the ups and downs of this Florida State team this year, it's not for lack of effort. He's been happy with the effort from this team all year long. He's just pointing out the fact that the oldest guy on the team is a Phil Kofer, and Phil Kofer, his age doesn't match up to the reps that he's taken or the game action that he's seen. And that's the product of the up and down inconsistency as a young team. You don't get to play at a high level unless you play at a high level for a bunch of games, and this team just simply hasn't had that opportunity because they're so young. He even pointed out the fact that, I don't know if he regretted it, he didn't say that, but he said, listen, sitting Brian Angola and sitting Terrence against Pitt, that hurt them probably in the NC State game as well. It takes away the chemistry that you've built.
Well, I thought that was the most interesting thing he said, was the thing about Angola and Man. And I don't think he was questioning whether he should have sat them. I think he was still kind of upset that he had to sit them. Whatever they did was bad enough. It could have been, again, it wasn't a crime, but whatever they did was bad enough that he felt he had to sit them in a half of one of the most important games of the year. At that time, they couldn't lose that game. And he sat his two leading scorers for the first half, and I think that really angered him, that they have all these goals still out there, that two guys that are supposed to be his leaders, his two leading scorers, do something where they have to sit out for the first half. And he can't not sit them. They can't break a rule and then he let them get away with that, because what does that do to team morale? So he had to sit them, but at the same time that team morale took a hit there too. And I mean, I thought that was really kind of, he's not really enlightening when it comes to personnel decisions ever. But I think the fact that he still mentioned that and how that still seemed to have a carryover, and they were still trying to find a connection with the team after that, I thought that kind of spoke volumes, that he was worried or is worried still, how that whatever they did, that rule breaking that they did, what lasting impact it's going to have on the team. So, and I get that. So I thought that was really enlightening. I would say the thing about NC State, you ran into a team that was shooting hot, and you didn't make shots, and that's true. But, man, you don't have to let them be wide open.
Yeah, right.
Go guard someone.
Right,
Go play some defense. I think that's when people hear, they just shot lights out. We ran into a really hot shooting team. Well, take it away. Try to take away the three-pointer, make them beat you at the rim if they can. And they just didn't do that. And they landed haymakers, and Florida State could never got off the deck and really made a game of it. And I think people were upset by that.
And one thing that he mentioned, and then somebody, it was like the first reply on the thread over on warchant.com, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good point. I probably should ask a follow-up question. You've pointed out, I think Iris pointed out as well, that, this team, usually when they do lay an egg, and they haven't laid many eggs, a lot of these games have been close throughout the season. I think the Notre Dame game and the NC State game now obviously are the two games that kind of got away from them. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they bounced back from the Notre Dame game by beating Clemson in overtime, right?
Right. And even the Notre Dame game, though, they were tied with like 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, that just kind of got away from them. But what Leonard just says is, like, listen, no matter what's been happening to this team, they've always been able to bounce back and respond the right way, and I feel that will be fine on Wednesday. Well, the problem, though, is as they approach the postseason here, and obviously they need to get one more win, whether it's Boston College at home, whether it's sneaking one in Little John today or in the ACC tournament up in Brooklyn, there's no bouncing back once you make the tournament, man. Like, this team can't come out flat and just play bizarre non-defense, taking bad shots and things of that nature, because there's no bouncing back once you finally make it to the dance.
Yeah, but I guess my reply to that would be, man, if they make the tournament, it's been a success. I mean, this team isn't winning a national championship, and it's not going to the Final Four. The ceiling for this team is maybe the second round, which is fine. I mean, you got all these guys coming back. They can build off something like that. But I see what you're saying. You don't want to wait till it's too late. But I mean, there's only going to be one team that is happy when the season's over, really, and that ain't going to be Florida State. So I think the big thing then is just in the course of a season, they usually do a pretty good job. In a regular season, they do usually a pretty good job when they have duds, and they might have too many duds for people's likings. I get that during the course of Hamilton's tenure. But when they have duds, they do a good job of bouncing back. And I will say this, I want to make this point when I was talking last a couple minutes ago. They are inexperienced. People see that. They're used to Terrence Mann, Phil Kofer, Trent Forrest, C.J. Walker. They know the names, Kumaji. They've been here a while, but they haven't had a lot of minutes in crunch time. Last year, you had Isaac, Bacon, and XRM pretty much dominating the ball the last 10 minutes of every game. C.J. Walker wasn't on the floor much at the end of the game. Kumaji was never on the floor. Kofor was barely on the floor at the end of the game. Savoy, Angola. Terrence Mann was on the floor, but he wasn't a guy that needed to score. They all have new roles, and this is their first season in these roles where they're counted on more, and people game plan to stop them. And sometimes they haven't done a great job of answering that. Angola specifically has done a really bad job the last 3 weeks he's just been off. He needs to make a three. That would help. But so when people might roll their eyes when they hear inexperience, and it sounds like coach speak. But next year, when all these guys come back and they do have the same roles again, I think you're going to see a team that is significantly better.
Put on an extra pot of coffee tonight, folks. 9 o'clock tip up in Clemson, South Carolina, as Florida State takes on the Tigers. It'll be a 9 p.m. tip on ESPNU. So enjoy that. And enjoy this commercial break. We'll be right back with more Wake Up War Chant right after this.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
It's ESPN 97.9's Wake Up War Chant. He is Corey Clark, senior writer for WarChant.com. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, director of digital media, if I can get the words out of my mouth. Everyone laughs at my assertion that the Noles are going to go undefeated on the diamond, Corey, but they're 8-0. Break them up. Here they come. They're looking really good. Andrew Karp, I think, had 12 strikeouts on the night, 6 innings pitched in the 4-0 win over Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, Jonas Scalaro, sorry. If anybody listened to the game actually on ESPN3 yesterday, they were bombarded with incorrect names. Austin Karp, mainly. They kept calling Andrew Karp Austin Karp left and right. But
Austin Karp?
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, so but yeah, 4-0 winners over Jacksonville. Offense, I mean, gosh, they keep leaving guys on base, but they keep bringing enough guys in to win these games, so I'm not going to chastise them for that sort of stuff. But, man, I think Andrew Karp, I don't want to ask this question to Mike Bell because you probably think I'm coming off as being a jerk, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. But I wonder if there was any sort of feeling from Andrew of hey, man, you're going to leave me out of the weekend rotation? Okay, I'll show you, man. I'll show you that I can respond to this challenge perhaps, or I've got the mettle to be a weekend guy. Threw fantastic last night. I think he had at one point he had struck out 7 guys in a row, had like 9 straight outs. So Andrew Karp really strong, 6 innings pitched in that game to get the win. Scalaro gets his first ever career save. Again, the Noles are 8-0. Yeah,
and the pitching is where it's at so far. Now, obviously, they're going to face better bats as the season goes along, but it's been really impressive. And Karp did this kind of last year too. He struggled in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season. He had some really awful outings. But, man, at the beginning of the season, he was lights out. And, maybe he doesn't make the weekend rotation. I'm not sure if there's a spot for him if Pollock keeps pitching like that. But it's a big deal to have a guy that's really good as a Tuesday guy. Those wins all matter. And you got to stack up wins if you're trying to get a host, if you're trying to be a top 8 seed. And you got Florida 3 times on a Tuesday. So – you hope, maybe not against Florida because they get arms from everywhere, but you have a pretty good advantage when that guy is your number 4 starter against the likes of Jacksonville or South Florida or UCF or whoever they play in these midweek series. Man, that's a nice luxury to have. And that dude can be electric. That's a 12 Ks in 6 innings against a real team, a team from Florida that has some nice players. That's really impressive, and their pitching has been really impressive all year. Their starting pitchers, I think, have an ERA under 1, after 8 starts. That's really good, even without the best one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the stats update in terms of ERA, but I know going into the contest, they were tied for 8th in the nation for lowest ERA. Offensively, they're not batting all that well. They're not. Their batting averages are quite low, but the OBP, their on-base percentage is up there. But I think it wouldn't hurt to start seeing maybe some hitting in terms of, let's just start rocking it around the park here. I think Rhett Applin really only had the only real sort of nice base knock. It was an RBI double. He sliced the left field. Otherwise, some guys are just not getting off to the best of starts. But they're 8-0, so you really can't be too mad, right, Corey?
Well, no, and if you're going to be good at something, if you're going to struggle, if you're going to pick what you're going to struggle at, you would always pick hitting and not pitching. If you can have dominant pitching and just okay hitting, you'll take that every time. Florida just won a national title with that.
Right.
So that's what you'd rather have, and it's kind of what you expect at this stage of the season, right? Pitching is supposed to be ahead of the offense right now. The bats will come, man. The scoring will come. I mean, they got a couple guys that are a lot better hitters than they're showing, but it's also 8 games, and baseball's such a small sample. That's such a small sample size when you're going to play 60. So, if they're still not hitting after 20 games, well, then, you might be like, okay, what's going on here? You might really questioning it. Then again, they're going to be 20-0, so you're not going to care.
Yeah, they're not going to lose a game, everybody. I'm telling you right now. Mike Martin now 24 wins shy of the all-time victories record. Is it in Division I baseball, Corey, or is it just college baseball, period? I think it's just college baseball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's college baseball, period. I mean, that's a ton of wins.
Jeez.
It's nuts that somebody else has over 1,900 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy amount of wins.
Right. So he's 24 wins away. We're going to be starting something on War Chant. Hopefully today. I'm going to try to make it out to Hauser later on here. You might need to help me with the marketing of it. I want to give it some sort of cool name. It's just going to be a little video feature. I'm going to call it the 5-tool fix in honor of Brady Clark and his 5-tool ability, or at least hopefully the ability to one time achieve all 5 of those. But just kind of going to go around.
That's good.
Yeah, just strive for something.
He doesn't have he's not quite an elite runner yet.
He'll get there.
You got to get that going. But everything else, he's 4 tools and a half.
Once he grows into that body, he'll be fine, man. Let him know Uncle Aslan's rooting for him. So,
I appreciate it. He appreciates that.
Yeah, anytime, man. So,
and he listens to this on the way to school.
Yeah.
So he'll hear it.
What up, Shanna? Represent. I'm Aslan. I like Corey. He's a good guy. I'm glad you guys are getting along well. So the thing is, so now Mike Martin is like 24 wins off the record to own it outright. And part of the spiel that I'll be doing every week is we'll do like the magic number or whatever. So like Mike Martin, when he was age 24, that was the last time he played baseball. Like that was the last year of his minor league career, and then he came back to Tallahassee and got his master's degree. It was 1968. He was playing for a minor league affiliate in Carolina as part of the Detroit Tigers organization. So the more you know.
Oh, you did that research?
Yeah, I dove into it.
Nice, buddy. That's cool.
This is really weird for a kid who's brown and his parents came from the Middle East. I never played baseball growing up, right? And everybody plays baseball growing up. I played soccer, I played hockey, I golfed a whole bunch, loved football, but never played organized football just because I would have got broken in half. I wanted to play high school football, but my parents wouldn't sign over the insurance form, and I didn't have enough money to get the insurance to play football, but that's neither here nor there. I wasn't a big baseball guy growing up. I actually got into the Braves summer of 1990. Was that the first time they got the pennant? Was it 90 or 91? I think it was 91.
91, buddy.
Was it
91.
Sorry. Literally
90, they finished in last.
Okay, so they went from worst to first, right.
Yeah.
So 91, it was the summer, and I was staying with my uncle and my cousins in West Palm Beach, and like we'd spent 2 weeks there in a little apartment or what have you, and I remember it was the summer, there's nothing on, and we'd go to the pool during the morning and get crazy or whatever. We'd come home and you'd watch TBS, the Superstation, the Braves were on, and it was it was cool to see this team that, was so terrible start stringing together some wins. So we just kind of adopted them as our team, and I hung on to the bandwagon for a good 7 years or so, and then I checked out, towards the end of my high school. I'm just like, I don't like baseball anymore. When they went on strike, I kind of lost the passion that I was starting to build. But anyhow, being in Omaha for 2 years when I was in Mississippi covering Mississippi State and Ole Miss, and MSU went on a burner. I mean, they made it to the championship series and lost to UCLA. Like being in Omaha and getting to experience that, I really fell in love with college baseball. So yeah, I'm all in on this, man. I don't have the institutional knowledge of some of the folks who post on the message boards that cover Florida State baseball or have the real burning passion for it. But I love it, man. It is squarely number 2 behind football for me, but it's a strong high number 2. I love the game.
Yeah, it's a cool sport. Baseball is my favorite sport. College baseball, until I got this job, or the job of being around Florida State athletics, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I grew up a Florida State fan, and they were always good, and I'd pay attention once they got to Omaha. It was pretty much how and there's still plenty of fans that are like that now. But once you get around college baseball every day, it's a really neat sport because unlike basketball and unlike football, there's still some innocence to it. Most of those guys aren't, they're getting their books paid for, or they've got like a 20% scholarship.
Yeah.
There's no real money in it. Nobody's paying these college baseball players $100,000 to come play for them. It's just not what happens. So I don't know. I just always felt there's maybe a little more innocence to it because, most of them are going to be get their degrees. They are there to be students too, as opposed to, and I'm just talking about the one and done culture that permeates big time college basketball. So really, it's just I've always liked I've really grown to love the sport. Like this Florida State team, there might be 3 guys that play in the major leagues. There might be 4 guys that when they're 26 are still getting paid to play baseball. So that kind of makes it, you get to see these guys for what many of them is the highlight of their careers, getting to play Florida State baseball. And I think the difference is on the basketball team or on the football team, they don't want that to be that. They all are hoping that's not the highlight of their careers, that they're going to be in the league. They're going to be playing overseas till they're 35. But in baseball, this will be it. Some of them will never play in front of large crowds again. So I don't know. There's a little more innocence to it, a little more amateurish feel to it. And and obviously I have a really good relationship with Mike Martin Sr. And Mike Martin Jr. And Mike Martin Sr. is just about as good as ambassador as you could ever want for your university. And just a really good man. And I unabashedly hope he not only breaks the record, but he gets that darn ring.
Well said. We're wrapping up the show right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant. It's ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You've made it through 3 segments. Hopefully it sounded much better. Maybe not the content, but hopefully the actual quality is a little bit better. We're here trying to tweak things and make it as good for you as possible. He's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan. It's Wake Up War Chant. We're brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. There's 3 locations over in College Town that's part of the For the Table Hospitality family. It's Madison Social, it's Central, and it's also Township. Go there, check them out. Remember, Township's got the Wednesday ale thing, Wednesday ale. I don't know how to say it correctly, but it's half-liter prices on liter beers for some of the craft beers that they have there over at Township. Some of the stuff that's made specifically just for them. So check it out. You won't be disappointed. Corey, thanks for hanging in there today. You're always a super champ at all this sort of stuff. So we haven't talked anything about Jimbo Chronicles this week, which is good for a lot of people, I think. So to make up for, I think we should open up page number 1 of Chest Chronicles and pay tribute to Chuck Amato, who on Tuesday actually announced his retirement at age 71. Spent 21 years in Tallahassee. What's your best Chuck the Chest story, Corey? Was that good?
Well,
was that good?
I've heard worse impressions, I guess.
My mother's at Orgeron. I'm a good coach.
Like
Coach O's mother.
Yeah,
Coach O.
Who is that? Who are you doing there?
Oh, that was good. I have a good Orgeron. Sometimes I have a good Orgeron. That was not my best Orgeron. I got to actually have something in front of me that I can read with words on it, so I could be like, all spot rates gross, talent fees are net, scheduling is per broadcast, calendar months. I just picked something up here that was here in the radio station.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's good, man. That's I didn't know you were like a man of 1,000 voices.
I got a couple.
Can you do Christopher Walken?
You got to explore the space. Man, I got a fever.
This is you're like a jukebox.
I feel like you're patronizing me. I mean, I don't.
No, I'm not. That was a pretty good. Your Christopher Walken was better than the first 2.
My Orgeron. All right. Yeah, I can't do Chuck the Chest. Well, just got that raspy,
no, Chuck the Chest.
pitch.
Amato's hard.
Yeah.
And I won't try to do an impression. I can't. And I don't really have because by the time I got here, I think he was only here a year or two.
Right.
And then, obviously he wasn't going to coach under Jimbo. But, I think he's, people that know me, have been following me for a while, know how much I revere Mickey Andrews and what he did for the Florida State program. And I think it's a shame.
Build him a statue.
He isn't more name a street after him. Name the practice fields after him. Do something for the guy, because he was a enormous part of the Florida State success. Bobby Bowden didn't become Bobby Bowden until he got himself a defensive coordinator, and that was Mickey Andrews. So anyway, and he was here for 25 years. I just think he deserves more than a farewell game where half the stadium was empty. But that's just me. At any rate, Chuck Amato was a big part of the success too. I think he was the D-line coach for, I don't know, most of that time.
Linebackers.
During the dynasty run.
I think
linebackers, that's right. Yeah. And, I know he was a guy that recruited Miami really well for Florida State. I don't know any of the recruiting stories from back then. I would assume he had something to do with Marvin Jones coming to Florida State, but I don't know that for sure. But anyway, he got a lot of really good players to come to Florida State and make it the best program in the country. And he was loyal to Bowden. That was one of the great things about that staff, is it stayed together for essentially over a decade, most of those guys. And they had something that worked. They knew their roles. They knew who the captain was. They knew who the second in command was. But they all knew their roles, and they did them really well. And I know it didn't end well for his time at Florida State. And I know he had to end at Akron, which is, not the way he probably foresaw his career ending when he left for NC State 15 years ago. But still, he accomplished a lot of great things in Tallahassee, and I hope that's not forgotten, because he was a really good assistant coach and a really big part of that program during the dynasty run.
Yeah, and it's just, I remember when he came back for that second run, I was like, all right, man, they're getting the band back together. This is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And it clearly wasn't. It was just one of those things where, 2003 rolls around, 2004 rolls around, and just any person who ever coached at Florida State, that's when everything turned, right? Because everyone was piling on Jeff Bowden. Then it was when Mark Richt left and John Easton left with him. And then, then people talk about, what was it? Brad Scott had left or whoever. I mean, every person who ever coached on the staff with Bobby Bowden, it was like when that guy left, everything, went to hell in a handbasket. And one it was like Chuck Amato, the way he recruited South Florida was so crazy. Like now he's back, everything's going to be great. And it didn't work out the way, obviously, everybody probably intended it to, but it doesn't put a damper on what he helped accomplish at that.
I was going to say, but I just hope that it doesn't dampen what he did his first time around. It's like when Joe Gibbs came back to coach the Redskins. Well, that was a debacle, but it doesn't take away from the 3 Super Bowls he won beforehand and the great years he did have. And Joe Gibbs did come back to coach the Redskins, didn't he? He did. Yeah. Okay, I didn't know if I dreamed that.
I think Spurrier left and then he came back,
Yeah, after Spurrier, that's crazy that happened. Both of those hires, really. But yeah, so I just hope that's remembered that what a great career he had. Part of 2 national championship teams. I think he was here in '99.
He was,
or left. That might have been his first year at NC State.
No, he left.
I can't remember, but okay, so he's part of two national championship teams in the entire dynasty run, and he's a big part of it. And he was a larger than life figure, and it literally and figuratively, that chest was ridiculous. Like a barrel.
Have you seen
he's holding a barrel in his
Have you seen the photos of him in a singlet from his wrestling days in Raleigh? All man.
Oh, no.
All dude. Pure alpha. More like Chuck Alpha.
Oh, yeah.
Motto. Motto. To correct myself for correcting you, and I'll learn my lesson, Corey. I will stay in my lane and defer to you on all historical things Florida State, because as much of a fan as I am and try to keep that and the journalistic integrity of myself, juggle that, you clearly know more about Florida State than I do, because you're from the older generation, bro. But yeah, from 82 from 82 to 95, he had his finger in the pot on the defensive line. Then from 96 to 99, he went and helped out with linebackers. So yeah, he did make his hay for Florida State coaching the defensive line. So you were right.
There we go. Well, we were both right though, because he did coach linebackers too. He was a linebackers coach on the national championship team. That says something.
Yeah. And
so we were both right.
Yeah.
And I was more right. Right. Obviously, he was mostly a defensive line coach.
So humble.
And you kind of rebuked that as soon as I said it. I'm not going to hold that against you.
All right.
You're going to learn, like you said. You'll learn soon enough.
Yeah. I'll stay in my lane. Crazy thing is, I was looking at his record. 49 and 37 overall at NC State. I mean, he was 12 games above 500, was 4-1 in a bowl game. I mean, he went 8-4, 7-5, 11-3, 8-5, and then he went 5-6, 7-5, 3-9. And I'm sorry to read all those numbers to everybody. I hate when people do that on the radio, but I just did it. So.
And I'm pretty sure his 3-9 season, one of the three was the win against Florida State up there.
Yeah, that is correct.
And I think that was their last win of the season.
Yeah,
that's when things were pretty gross in old Tallahassee.
Number 16, Florida State lost 24-20 on that night, and then he promptly lost 7 in a row to end the season.
Yeah, I mean he obviously he was going to go. You can't go 3-9, and he had been there long enough. He had gotten his chance, but he did make NC State relevant for a while and had some nice years up there for a program that hadn't had a lot of really nice wins. He had done pretty well.
Well, just, what were they expecting out of him? Were they expecting 11-3 every single year? I mean, it's just, you look at
I just think when your last year is your worst year, that's when you think, okay, well, we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Let's make a change and try to turn it around again. He had us where he had us in a good spot, but it's starting to go downhill, and we don't trust that he's going to turn it around. Much kind of like what happened here, honestly. Maybe Jimbo would have turned it around, maybe he didn't, but I don't think people here were overly optimistic that he was going to bounce it back to a championship team. So if that's the case, go ahead and make the decision. But either way, his time at Florida State was a overwhelming success.
Yeah. And speaking of the other guy, I mean, just this has nothing to do with any recency of what we've been talking about on the show. How does it work, though? Like, how will it work for him in College Station? The more divorced I get from the intoxicity of being intoxicated with how beautiful Jameis Winston looked in 2013, the more you think about it, the more you hammer down to this whole thing of Tim Brewster having to use ridiculous recruiting ploys. Like, who are they going to recruit? Because no matter how much Tim Brewster wants to act like the SEC plays loud in the state of Texas, that's probably one of the states. You're talking about talent-rich states in this country. You're talking Florida, you're talking Texas, you're talking California. Outside of California, those three letters probably ring the least or the most hollow in the state of Texas. And you've got Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is a nice draw for a lot of kids, even from the state of Texas. You got Tom Herman obviously rolling things in Austin, people would assume, in terms of recruiting. Lubbock's always going to be a little bit of a thorn in the side. Arkansas, who knows how things are going to work with what's the guy's name? He used to be the Chad Morris. Yeah, Chad Morris is now at Arkansas. Like,
right.
How will it work? Like, how does it work? Like, how would it work? Like, what is like? I don't know. Jimbo Fisher has to sell you the vision. He's just like, I got my $75 million. I'm good with it. But how does that become an 11-2 not ceiling, like an 11-2 floor, a 10-3 floor program? Because 10 wins to them, that's like their ceiling. Like, every 5 years they can muster 10 wins. Otherwise, that's a perennial 8-4 team.
So, I mean, I think you just have to cheat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a joke.
Dang
no,
it.
Let's hope he's not cheating.
I was ready to go down that path.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I'm not. I'm certainly not implying or saying anything anywhere close to that. All recruiting in college football is on the up and up. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
I think, I don't doubt that Jimbo's going to bring in some players, man. I mean, he is. I think initially he'll be intriguing to a lot of people because of the NFL background. Because, as Tim Brewster pointed out, he sends all those DBs to the league after he teaches them how to backpedal and to close on the ball and go in the ball skills that he teaches.
The hips, open the hips.
So, got to open the hips.
Flip them open.
For heaven's sake, put a foot in the ground.
Yeah.
And have ball skills. So they'll sell that. And they'll get some recruits that way. And it's always, it's always fun to be the new guy. And the SEC is a sell, I guess. But you're right. It doesn't have the cachet in that state that it would in any other of the southern states. So, man, I think he'll recruit pretty well. He should be able to get any quarterback he wants, which is weird that he didn't at Florida State after Jameis left. I always thought that was kind of odd. And the Malik Henry recruitment was something that should have never happened in hindsight. But I think he'd be pretty easy to recruit against, too. If I'm Oklahoma and I'm Texas and LSU, maybe not LSU because their offense is even worse, but just as far as throwing the football. But I'd be like, man, if you're a receiver, why would you go there? I just think that would be pretty easy to recruit. Pretty easy to recruit against, and I'm actually really interested in how he does on the recruiting trail. I think he'll do top 10, top 15-ish, but can he win as much as he needs to win with top 15 recruiting classes and instead of top 2 recruiting classes? Because at Florida State, he was getting top 2 and top 3, not top 15, and that is a world of difference.
I don't know how Matt Luke's going to do at Ole Miss. I don't know how Joe Moorhead's going to do at Mississippi State, but he's never going to be.
I'll be honest with you. I have never heard of either one of those names. Those are the 2 head coaches in Mississippi.
Yeah. I mean,
I had no idea.
And if I didn't live there for 4 years, I wouldn't care either.
Of course you wouldn't.
I have
they're part of. Some of their family members don't know they're the head coaches at Ole Miss and Mississippi State.
Oh man, but it's just listen. You're not going to be better than Nick. Gus and Auburn are going to probably give you problems more often than not. Going into Oxford every other year or having to go into Starkville is not going to be a gimme win. And I don't know who their rotational rival is from the East. It's just, it really is hard to see how that's all going to happen. I wonder, like, if I was the, OC or like an analyst for Tom Herman and I would just be like responsible for recruiting. Like, I wonder what would be my 30-second like negative recruiting video that I would cut up of Jimbo. I don't know if it'd be like him yanking Jameis's face mask during the Oregon debacle, or just like a mashup of him yelling at James Blackman the 2017 season. And just like I would just give that to the recruit. Like when I would come in, I'd have my iPad. I'd be like, listen, man, like this is how we see you fitting in here at Texas. And I'd be swiping through all the photos. I'd have them photoshopped, like, riding Bevo and like eating brisket and having like all these pretty girls around them. And then I'd be like, oh, oops. And then it would just be photo after photo of like Jimbo yelling at James Blackman. I'd be like, oh, no, sorry, wait, no, sorry, don't mind that, don't mind. Yeah, come to Texas.
That's a really good point, because I don't know I've always thought like what kind of recruiter I would be, and if I could do that, because I don't take rejection well, and recruiting is a lot of rejection, but I think I would be a really good negative recruiter because I already have it lined up. For the quarterbacks, yeah, you just show a montage of him screaming at an 18-year-old playing in his first 2 games ever and screaming at him literally every time he walks off the field. Show them, okay, this was the next series. No, this isn't the same series. It's a different series. No, I know he looks the exact same. He's just screaming at him again because that's what he does. For a wide receiver, you don't need any images. You just need to show all the freshmen that have played and what their numbers were at Florida State. 1 catch, 4 yards, 0 catches. Auden Tate didn't play at all. Literally all of them. And then for running backs, I would show them what Jacques Patrick did his first 2 years.
Yeah. Oh,
there was a game where the starter was hurt, and he ran for 180 yards. After that, he had like 12 carries the whole year. That's how I would do it.
We're the time haters, Coach Clark and I.
And also for offensive linemen, I would show them the pictures of DeAndre Francois sprawled out on the turf,
and you're
as if he's doing snow angels, and say that's how he coaches up the offensive line.
Oh man,
none of that's fair. That's all negative. Jimbo did great things at Florida State. Sure. I get all that. I'm just talking about if I was negatively recruiting against him, I would have some ammo.
Listen, in this day and age, it's never bad to diversify your skill set. We're just letting everybody out there know on Coaching Scoop and CoachingCarousel.com and all those things.
Right.
If you need someone on your staff to help you out with the recruiting, Corey Clark and myself can help you out. Hopefully we can help fill another hour of your day tomorrow when we come back with another edition of Wake Up War Chant. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to the Jeff Cameron Show, coming up at 3.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.